I'm here with MJ, who's the president of Founders Club, and so we are kind of gonna talk about his entrepreneur journey and just as an overall.
Thanks, Spencer. Great to be here.
Kind of take us through the entrepreneur journey, meaning I guess you could say if you want to talk about like the transition from high school to college and kind of how you got your niche for entrepreneurship, if you will.
Yeah, for sure. I think my interest in entrepreneurship definitely started when I was back in like late middle school to early high school, and I remember I'd always want to like make money in a way that wasn't a job because I was too early to work because you had to be a certain age to like, work in a restaurant or another part-time job. So my first like entrepreneurial attempt was to give baseball lessons to young kids. So I remember I made a flyer, put out that I would give baseball lessons to kids from the age of like 5 to 12 with the help of like my aunts and uncles like reposting my post on Facebook because I didn't even really know what Facebook was back then, but they I was able to accumulate, I think it was like 7 or 8 little kids who I'd give baseball lessons to. And I think I charged like $20 an hour or something like super small like that. But it was really cool, and it was a great experience because one, I grew up playing baseball. I loved it. So it was great to be able to give back and help, teach these little kids, which I enjoyed doing. But at the same time, like I had like my spreadsheets and like
Yeah.
kept track of the finances, and it was a cool experience, and I think that definitely really like sparked my, interest in entrepreneurship. And I'd also do things like if I knew it was gonna. I'm from New Jersey originally, so
Okay.
it snows pretty often, and if I knew it was gonna snow, I'd print out like flyers and give them to all my neighbors and shovel their driveways. I remember a funny story one time. This was when I was probably like 13 or 14 again, but we printed out like probably 100 of these like flyers saying like with the storm tomorrow, we'll shovel your driveway. And we named the company. My other friend, his last name was Boss, and my last name is Beaner, so it was like Beaner Boss LLC. And I remember the next day, my phone started ringing, I'm like a little kid, and it's a random number, and I'll never forget. I answer it, and they're like, "Hey, is this Beaner Boss LLC?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Oh, like I got these like 7 commercial properties, and we need someone to get out there early tomorrow and shovel all the driveways. Like we'll pay you some." And they said some like ridiculous amount of money to a 14-year-old, and like they're asking about like our equipment and infrastructure and like how many driveways per hour we can do. And meanwhile, it's just me and my other 14-year-old friend with a shovel. So I remember I just handed the phone to my dad, and my dad explained to me, this commercial real estate guy, that we were just two kind of dumb 14-year-olds who were looking to make a quick buck. But I mean, yeah, from an early age, I enjoyed entrepreneurship. I thought it was the coolest thing in the world. And then I guess, and then graduating high school, coming into college, I kind of almost like lost that interest and passion for a little bit. Just getting to college, I'll admit, like my freshman year, I probably had a little too much fun. It was my first time being on my own, so I kind of almost like set aside that passion for entrepreneurship for a while. But then I was able to, I'd say my junior year, I regained the spark through the Founders Club and through interacting with people like Billy, who founded the Founders Club, and a couple of my other friends who are more entrepreneurial. And then I became co-president with Lily of the Entrepreneurship Club, which has been a great experience. And I actually ended up starting a mentorship service called Palmetto Mentors, which we help support first-year students and transfer students through peer mentorship and help them with professional development and making that transition from high school to college kid. And I was inspired to do that because of my own experience being a dumb immature high school kid and I wish I was able to have like a mentor who could have guided me early on. So I created the service to help give what I wish I could have had at that point.
What would you kind of say is from everybody who's either in the club or just as a whole? Is it kind of the spark to help other people and just, become financially stable, or is it just a matter of doing something because you have a niche for it and going, hey, well, I want to do something to either just for myself or for other people?
Yeah, I think it just depends on definitely who you ask, but I think I like to like read autobiographies of like the most famous founders in the world. I also listen to this great podcast, Founders, that does a good job like
Okay.
summarizing like all the founders and like how they started and how they really grew their businesses. And at least from my learning and from my talking with other student entrepreneurs and even like real entrepreneurs. I think for a lot of the time, a lot of these really successful entrepreneurs like put aside the financial aspect of it
Yeah.
and are really have this drive and have this passion and have this love to build things and to grow. And a lot of the time, like companies become founders like babies, but also at the same time, like, a lot of the time, like founders will sell companies and then start another. But I think in order to truly be a successful entrepreneur, I think you need to look past the financial side.
What would you do you think that there's kind of a one size fits all, meaning if you want to go into social media marketing versus, let's say, a landscaping service or kind of any of those?
I do not think there's a one size fits all. I think everybody's different. Everybody has their skills. Everybody has their weaknesses, and I always think it's entrepreneurship so cool because you can look at this is just a random example. You look at Bob who started a landscaping company, and you look at Joe who started the tech company, and you look at Alex who started some other like random niche industry
Yeah.
company. And it's for me it's always so interesting to like to see how people start companies like and it's like just like they start these niche companies and it's like it's cool for me to like try to think about like like I wonder like what made this person want to start this company. Like for example, who wakes up and is like I want to start like a waste management business. It's not something that like little kids dream about doing, but I think that kind of relates back to entrepreneurs. Like when you're an entrepreneur, even like before you have a company, I think that these are people who have a skill for identifying problems in their own life and other people's lives, and entrepreneurs act on those problems instead of complaining and do their best to create a solution for them.
So would you say that that's kind of where most of their ideas for businesses are? Meaning if they see, well, there's a lot of trash on the street in Charleston, and so we want to go get into the waste management business.
Yeah, I think that just kind of circles back to the entrepreneurial mindset, and that's what they teach here at the College of Charleston, which I can't say enough good things about the entrepreneurship program here. It's done great things for me. The professors are all awesome. It's really just a great program, and the key of that program is teaching the entrepreneurial mindset, and back to what you said, like yes, that's identifying problems and actually being equipped with the tools to act on those problems. And a lot of people, I think, like are scared to start their own businesses because they don't know where to start, and they look
Yeah.
at these like big businesses and big ideas, and they're like, "However, am I going to get to this point?" But I think like what I've learned from entrepreneurship is don't let I love this saying. It's don't let good or sorry, don't let great be the enemy of good. And basically it's saying like don't be so worried about perfection that you're scared to start because nobody's perfect. Even Steve Jobs, Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, Zuckerberg, like they didn't know what they were doing when they started. I mean, no matter what Mark Zuckerberg says, like, he didn't start a social network on Harvard's campus
Yeah.
and know that it was going to be this mega like massive company that will be analyzing data, creating its own AI algorithms. Like nobody knows like what will happen in the future, but what all these successful entrepreneurs have in common is that they took the first step and then they took the second step
Yeah.
and then they kept going, and then that compounds one day at a time, and next thing you know you have a big company.
Money is kind of an issue because, if you, let's say I want to start a company that's online and I don't have, let's say, $1,200 to kind of, spend $60 a month on the website and then either, data farms or any of that. Because I think that's kind of what holds people up is they go, well, I don't have the capital to start. And so, it's either, I mean, even if you want to do something where it's not online, meaning if you want to do drop shipping or clothing, you have to have the product in the inventory.
Yeah, it's financial is finance is definitely like I get yeah, agreed is a big reason people don't start companies, but I think that like if you're serious enough about like hey, I have this idea and I want to start this like drop shipping or e-commerce company,
Yeah.
I think that with enough grit, like you'll figure out a way to put that money together. I think obviously it's difficult, but whether that means going out and working a part-time job and that'll pay for your upfront expenses, or bootstrapping it and just kind of just obviously it's a tough to say. Like I mean, we're all college broke college kids, like
Yeah.
all of us in the Founders Club. Like I've started these businesses, and it takes a lot, but something they teach at CFC in the entrepreneurship classes is the MVP, which is the minimal viable product or prototype, I think. And basically it's like, how can I get my idea to like a viable, feasible prototype with the least amount of money possible? And there are strategies to do this, and it's through like a lot of market research, it's through a lot of surveying, and almost like trying to find your first customer before you even have a product. And then, but I guess what I'm getting at is there are ways to without spending a lot of money to start a business, but you're gonna have to work hard. You're gonna have to work a part-time job, and you're gonna have to make some sacrifices. And I think like I see a lot of people too, like they like to go out every weekend.
Yeah.
And when you look at it through that aspect, it's like, okay, say you're going out once or even twice a weekend, you're probably spending realistically at least $150 to $200
Yeah.
between like food and drinks and covers and all that. And I like, and like if you look at it like that, like, all right, like, and you, that's like a sacrifice like that in a lot of people's lives, like they can identify. And if you identify that this is a sacrifice you can make, like that money that goes to spend there can go into your business. And I think that whether it's like eating out or playing too much golf or going, whatever it is, like there are sacrifices that many of us can make in our life that can help it be a little bit financially possible to start a business.
So,
Yeah, I mean, I think entrepreneurship is something that I'll have work to have for the rest of my life. I recently saw a term, I think it's called entrepreneurship, and that's like taking an entrepreneurial mindset like into a company, which like I think again, like, what I've learned through CFC entrepreneurship program absolutely will help me in my career. It's helped me with like networking. It's helping me with being more articulate. It's helping me with my public speaking skills, and those are skills that I'm very appreciative and continuing to try to grow, because I think especially with AI coming in and all this, technological advancements we have, I think that the industries and the skills that will be sought after are going to be communication, people skills, like connecting people with ideas, leading people. And I think that entrepreneurship really teaches those skills. And even through like the mentorship service I started, like we didn't charge any of the students. And
yeah.
and really, like, when I look at that whole experience, it was learning. And I failed a lot. I learned a lot. And those experiences are going to absolutely help me in my future. So I'm currently working on something actually with my mom right now that I'm really excited for. But yeah, absolutely. I'll probably work like a quote unquote real job after graduation. But I mean, I can't see a future where I don't run my own company and that's my full-time job. So I think I'll just go learn on somebody else's dollar and then branch out and go start something.
So, if we're kind of looking back at all the either entrepreneurs that I looked at or entrepreneurs that you've looked at, what has kind of been the humble starting or just kind of where they came from? Meaning, is it, hey, this person was destined to be an entrepreneur, meaning if you're, let's say, Larry Ellison for Oracle or, Steve Jobs, was it, hey, they were really passionate at this and they kind of didn't fit in, or is it just a matter of, it's somebody who is really popular who kind of had that drive to start the big business?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think there's two qualities that at least like I identify in successful founders. I think one is having a strong vision. I think that like you look at Steve Jobs or Zuckerberg or any of these like well-known founders, they have this long-term vision and they're able to kind of look over and oversee like worries about short-term profits and making a quick dollar. Like they have this vision and every decision they make aligns with reaching that vision. And I think it's a hard skill to have, but when you have it, you'll be successful because, again, they have this vision and all these day-to-day problems cross their desk and they make the decisions through the scope of, is this putting me closer to my dream and my vision and my value proposition, or is this putting me further away? And if it's not getting them closer to that vision, they're gonna not do it. And they're very persistent and stick through this, and I think that's a great skill. And then also the second quality that I see in successful entrepreneurs is perseverance and tenacity. Like successful entrepreneurs, like entrepreneurs fail a lot. You're gonna fail. You've probably failed already and you'll fail again in the future. And I think the biggest thing that stops people from being successful is they quit. They have a bad day, a bad week, a bad month, maybe a bad year, and nothing's going your way, and they're like, all right, like this isn't for me. I can't do it anymore. But but perseverance is the best skill ever. Maybe some consider perseverance to just be like ignorance or low intelligence, but whatever that skill has, I think is so essential because you get hit in the face, but you just keep going and you just keep going and going and going, and eventually maybe it's luck or maybe just I don't know, the universe finally goes your way, but eventually like you will succeed. And I truly believe that through enough perseverance that anybody will succeed.
I want to read more. I don't want to spend a lot of time on social media, and I kind of want to eat a well-balanced diet.
Everyone sets New Year's goals. I've been guilty of it too. Ridiculous goals, like I'm gonna wake up at 5 a.m. every day, no matter what. I've tried it, but there's goals which tend to fizzle out, and then there's habits, and habits are the key to achieving your goals. And one of my favorite books, Atomic Habits, talks a lot about like small incremental changes and how those small incremental changes compound and compound until eventually they make a massive impact. And one of the examples the book talks about is like it talks about I might be mixing up like the destinations, but the point's the same. But it talks about like a plane or a plane taking off from LAX, and the plane's trying to go to New York City, but if the plane shifts, I think it's 4.5 degrees to the left, that plane will land in Washington D.C. And that kind of goes into the point that like consistency is king. And if you strive every day to just be, it sounds corny, but 1% better, by day 150, you're 150%
Yeah.
better. And I think that people often set these goals and they have this like short-term motivation, and they're like, I'm going to do this. It's going to happen in 3 days. Like, I'm going to change my life. And they almost always fail. And it's because they just have this big, hairy, audacious goal.
Yeah.
And they don't change any of their old habits. So all their old habits are working against them to bring them down. Meanwhile, they're shocked when it doesn't work out. So, I mean, moreover, I really think just like changing your habits is so key because, I mean, I can think of countless examples where I've heard people say like, I'm going to start this business. It's going to be great. And I'm like, I love it. Do it. And then 6 months later, they haven't thought about it in months, and it's just some distant thing. And it's like, it really just goes into habits.
Do you think that a lot of people, especially our age, are they're wanting to try everything out, but they're wanting to dip into multiple sectors? Meaning, if you want to start a business and then you want to do a podcast and then you want to have all the schoolwork and the social life and then dating somebody on top of that.
Yeah. I think diversity at our age is great. I think I say to myself, I'm like, I want to do everything I possibly can and learn and fail as much as possible in my 20s because I mean I have nothing to lose right now. It's awesome. Like I fail, so what? I don't have a family. I don't have
You don't have obligations that are tearing you down.
A quote unquote real yeah, so might as well fail and like yeah. But I think yeah, diversity is great. I think but at the end of the day, like I think a common mistake that kids our age make is that they fail to see like the big picture in life. When you really think about it, like a month is a pretty long time.
It really is.
A month is a long time, and you can do something and grind at something and give something your all for 6 months and get a lot out of that while you also might fail. But say you do fail, first of all, you never fail.
And
if you learn,
you gave it your all. Yeah. You tried.
And you're still learning. But yeah, maybe in the public eye, you failed. But you learned so much from that experience. And in the grand scheme of things, 6 months is nothing. But think about it also like this. Like, what if you never even started? And, you're the same place 6 months from now that you were 6 months ago, and you learned nothing. So, in my opinion, yeah, go do it. Like, do as much as you can, and yeah, L.
What would you kind of say is, meaning being a college student, do you think that a lot of it is, hey, let's kind of go and party, or do you think that some of the time is being reserved, hey, let's focus on ourselves and let's focus on the business? And then I know that a lot of people are like, hey, let's go date somebody, and then that'll kind of drive my direction of life so that both of us can kind of be this joint ownership a little bit of, hey, she supports me in this and that I support her in this, whether it's a business or whether it's, family or social life or just as a whole.
Yeah, that's a good question. To backtrack a little bit, like I absolutely like had my fun freshman and sophomore year. Like I had a great experience and I'm happy I did because I got out of my system. I had my fun and now I'm more focused on other stuff that bring me joy. I really believe that you can only do three things well at the same time.
Yeah.
So those three things you can look at it like anything. Those three things can be one could be going out with your friends, another can be I don't know, if you have a girlfriend and then your classes. But like what if like on top of those three things, like you have a business, you play a club sport,
You just pile a lot of the
yeah,
stuff on
you
top.
volunteer somewhere like again, like you can only do it's maybe I'm wrong, but from my experience, like you can only do three things well. And that might be as you get older, balancing your family and your wife or again your business or your job. But so I think that it's important to focus and it's important to cut out distractions and it's important to acknowledge that if you're I don't know going out 2 to 3 days a week like realistically like you're not in the position to start a business
Yeah.
and you're going to need to make a sacrifice.
Do you think that social media kind of plays a factor in meaning, just as a whole and as a student, meaning, do you think that it kind of makes us distracted because we have this, repeated cycle of people's success and we look at it and we go, what? We don't own the $3 million house and we don't own the Gulfstream 650 and we don't own the Ferrari and then we don't own, the 200-foot yacht. And so we go, crap. And then we get in the cycle of being depressed and we're like, crap. We don't have the success that other people want if they rent it, but yet we feel bad because we go, why aren't we trying out something that other people have already succeeded at and doing super well at?
Absolutely. Yes. Social media is crazy. We're in a technological boom just like they were in an industrial golden age and gold rush. It's crazy too. Like I've been thinking about it recently. Like we are in a technological like gold rush right now. Like,
Yeah.
the advancements in technology and social media that we see is like crazy. And I think that myself included, like many of us like forget. Like it's hard to like notice it when you're in the middle of it, but the time we're in will be like stunning one day. But I think back to that, like, there's so many distractions.
There
like,
are.
I open up my phone and, I can go down a rabbit hole of watching shark attack videos pretty quick. And it's like I think like back to only being able to do three things well at the same time, like TikTok, Instagram, and Snapchat for
Yeah.
me. Like, if I'm not careful, can dig into that.
It can take your time away from you.
Absolutely, and it's like a lot of people will say to me like, I feel like I don't have enough time in the day, and that's pretty common
It is,
in
yeah.
entrepreneurs, especially student entrepreneurs who are juggling a lot at once. But go on your screen time and look how much time you spent on like TikTok and Instagram, and for a lot of people in college, that is like 7+ hours a day.
Jeez.
And if you're just scrolling on your phone for 7 hours a day, and you're
7 hours,
surprised when
7 hours of those could have been productive.
exactly, and like people are surprised when like, oh, like it's 6 o'clock and like I haven't gotten anything done. It's like maybe because you slept until 11:30, skipped the class, and scrolled on TikTok for 7 hours. Like it goes back to habits, and those habits, whether they're small or positive or negative, compound and they make a difference. And if you're being productive and doing good things, and great, like they'll continue to get better and better and better until you'll be able to look back like at 6 months ago and say, wow, like I'm not even the same person. But at the same time, if you continue with these negative habits, you'll just continue and continue and continue to spiral and be in the same negative place that you were when you started. So it's a super tricky slope. And I think another thing Atomic Habit says is like, don't miss twice.
Yeah.
So like nobody's perfect. Like
No, nobody is.
none of us are. So like if I miss a workout or I like to wake up early and ruck, which is walking with a weighted vest to see the sunrise. So if I miss that like one day, like whatever, that's fine.
Yeah.
Just keep moving on. Like it's okay. Nobody's perfect, but don't miss twice. Because if you miss twice, you're starting a new habit.
Exactly. So, two things. What do you Do you think that as an entrepreneur, the weekend is kind of for doing from the week and then extending it? Meaning, if you're somebody who, let's say, I have a party, I don't go to bed until 2 o'clock, and then I wake up at 12:30. Or do you kind of look at it and go, no, the weekend is still the week, and so that's a matter of me being productive, and so I need to wake up at the same time as I normally would for school and use those days for productivity. And also another thing would be, do you think that our generation is kind of, because we have social media, we don't talk as much to other people, and so it's a matter of reliance on technology because, if you look at it, people in the 80s and the 60s, they didn't have technology, and they did, but it's not to the point of where we have it now where we can use it, but a matter of, because they would go over to people's houses and it was a lot more, friendship and bonding and things of that nature where it's not, you're behind the screen and so you feel isolated, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think so. I read a study or in one of my class. I took this class intentionality
Okay.
with Ben Navarro, he's a local businessman and philanthropist. Which changed my life and it changed the lives of almost everybody who was in that class. And that class was very much we talked about like personal development and being your best self and your mindset, and it absolutely changed the way I think, and I wish everybody could experience that. But through that class, like we talked a lot about like happiness and like what contributes to quote unquote success and happiness. And the number one thing that contributes to, especially in like, I mean, this is for all ages, but I think especially for college kids is relationships and social interactions. And it's cliche, but everybody says like your closest five friends, like that's who you are. Like you
Yeah.
are the mix of your closest five friends, and that is one of the most true statements I've ever heard in my life. It's because you are. It's just true, and I think like by surrounding yourself with quality people that bring you up and consistently challenge you and make you step out of your comfort zone, that's just like the recipe for a happy life. So to go back to your question about like balancing the weekend and going out or continuing the work week, I think that you need to mix in like social
Yeah.
interaction and you need to invest in relationships, and that needs to be a priority for people because again, like it's just so essential. And I think that the weekend can be great, like if you're like after this, like I'm going with a couple of my friends to walk with our weighted vests over the Ravenel Bridge. And that's something that I'm happy to do because I'm investing in a good relationship. So I think when you use the weekend, let me backtrack a little bit. I think like you don't need to be like I'm like gonna grind every second on Friday and Saturday and Sunday. Like the grind doesn't stop because yeah, it's great to work hard, but at the same time, like if you use the weekend to advance yourself and personal development, that's great. But when you get lost and just like getting on a 3-day bender and going out every day, like
Yeah.
that's when you wake up and it's Monday comes around and you're like, I feel like I'm like more behind than I was like last week, and that's kind of just like back to habits that just continues that spiral, and then you have to have a big turnaround to have a productive week. So I believe a lot of like being active, like getting your physical activity in, if you want to do work, but I don't think you need to like grind every second.
And what about the second part of the communication part and kind of relying on technology, meaning interacting with people more, and kind of building those bonds versus kind of relying on technology to build those bonds, if you will.
Yeah, I think like in-person social interactions that's almost like life if you think about it.
Yeah.
Like that's like what human beings were meant to do, and yeah, it's great. We can call my friend who's in Indonesia and talk to him. Like that is pretty freaking cool. But at the same time, like just like I don't know, go outside. And I love talking to people. Like I went to yesterday. I went to Trader Joe's to get my groceries with a friend, and then we went to the Veggie Bin, which is like a local like vegetable and fruit shop
Okay.
on Spring Street, which I'd highly recommend to anybody listening. But there's this like older gentleman in there, and I love talking to people. So we get in, he had a Red Sox hat, and my other friend's a Red Sox fan, so she was like, "Go Sox," and I'm like, "Go Yankees," and that I kid you not turned into an hour and a half conversation. And it was like great, like this older gentleman just like he just would not stop telling stories, and we were loving it. And sometimes like older people just like they don't get a lot of
they just
social
rant, yeah.
interaction, and they just go out in public and like that's their fun and for the day. So yeah, we we stood there for an hour and a half while this guy told us the craziest stories about. I couldn't even tell you because it was just about everything, and like, and there was actually three of us. We walked out and we just started like dying laughing because we're like, what was that? But like that's what life's about, like just like random social interactions,
Random happiness,
yeah.
yeah.
I like to say like I'm a pretty social person. Like I love talking to people. I love meeting new people. I mean, just go outside and talk to somebody. If you see some tourists walking down the street, like with their big map or their phone out,
Yeah.
you need some direction. I love doing that because it always turns into like 20-minute conversations. And my part-time job is I work for Charleston Pedicab, and I mean, yeah, I drive people on my bike, but my real job is just like having conversations and making them feel comfortable. And
Yeah.
I love that. Like I just talk about the most random stuff, and I mean, we go on for hours, and it's great. That's led to like jobs and stuff too. Yeah.
What would you I don't really know much about Charleston. I mean, yeah, I know the historic parts about it, but what would you kind of say is the like the large sector or whatever that's kind of because if a lot of people don't know, Charleston is kind of like the millionaire or the billionaire kind of spot for the South. Where's kind of the biggest industry that a lot of people have made their money in Charleston?
Yeah, I think a lot of people retire to Charleston, and then of course there's like old generational wealth, which is absolutely here. But I think like relationships in this city are so important, and relationships in all cities are important, but specifically Charleston, it's such a small, up and coming ecosystem that it's really about who you know, and like any entrepreneur who has really done something in Charleston knows all the other entrepreneurs and business people
Yeah.
who have done things in the city. So I think networking and making connections is again very important everywhere, but especially in this city, it's so important. But in terms of like what industries are big, I mean, real estate, like commercial real estate, is pretty big here. Um, there's actually a lot of like tech companies that are starting to come to Charleston, like a lot of tech startups and a lot of startups in general. Like you can go check out the um, Harbor Entrepreneurship Center in Mount Pleasant, and there's like 10 or 15 startups in there, which are all doing pretty cool, unique things. Some are like AI, some are like real estate development, but like it's definitely an up and coming ecosystem here in Charleston, but you almost have to take an entrepreneurial mindset approach to like find a job. And
Yeah.
from my experiences personally and like what I've seen work for other people, it's like finding a mentor who's maybe a successful entrepreneur or business person here and them taking you under their wing. So in all honesty, like it's difficult to find a quality, like high
It
paying job
really
in
is.
Charleston,
Yeah.
but but the best way to go about doing it is to just network like crazy and be a social, likable person. And that goes back to being outside and like social interactions. Like say yes, because you never know where that will lead. Like one of my possible like job opportunities right now was come through the pedicab, and I drove him and his nephew on the bike for about an hour, and we just had great quality conversations about entrepreneurship and life. You never know what they'll lead to. So.
So dipping into that, would you say that saying yes to more opportunities is better than saying no? Meaning, yeah, you're gonna have a lot of doors that close if you say yes to certain opportunities, but overall, do you think that that's kind of beneficial?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, don't never burn a bridge because again, you don't know where that might lead. But yeah, I mean, say yes. Like, couldn't believe in that more. Like, just leave your house and go outside and talk to people and experience things. Especially as like a younger college kid, like these successful people like want to help us. They do, but you're not gonna run into a successful person who will help you while
No.
you're watching TikTok on your couch.
Yeah. So I know that we kind of talked about this earlier. What do you think about AI? I mean, I know that there's going to be a lot of benefits with it, but is it just, hey, it's here to stay and it's here to take all of our jobs, or do you think that it's kind of a 50-50, if you will?
Yeah, to preface, I am not an AI expert whatsoever
Never mind.
at all for everybody, but I mean, I can definitely share my opinion. So my opinion is AI will for sure take away jobs, no question. But I think at the same time it'll create the same amount of jobs, if not more. And I'm a firm believer right now that the job or business I'll be working slash owning
Yeah.
5 to 10 years from now, that like industry probably doesn't even exist yet. And it's crazy to think about because it's just like, again, like we're in the technological boom and things are changing every single day. Like you look at that Chinese AI language model startup.
Oh, really?
They just started with $6 million, just took market share away from OpenAI and Microsoft Copilot and like Meta's Llama. Like the AI industry is in like a what the heck just happened right now? How did some small Chinese tech startup with $6 million of funding take market share away from these AI companies that have done like hundreds of billions of dollars in raising capital? So I think like for people like us who are just like normal like college kids, like that kind of like is pretty cool because it means like I don't need to raise hundreds of billions of dollars
Yeah.
to compete against these big companies. It's like now it's as just a normal person with a computer and a couple YouTube videos and
And then it
using
goes viral.
ChatGPT, like you can do big things and make big impact on the world. And that's something that like our grandparents and even our parents like didn't have the power to do. Like they I mean, not to say it was any easier or harder for them to
Yeah.
start businesses back then, but I think now like we have this reach and like again, if you put away this TikTok and social
Exactly.
media and like focus on mastering a couple skills, like you can do big things and you can have a massive impact.
Being an entrepreneur, at least for me, I've talked with, older people who have said, "Hey, it's not really kind of in your best interest to go, work for somebody else, if you will, meaning it's better to work for yourself." What are your kind of thoughts about that?
I think there's no set path. Some people are going to be better off working a job, and other people are going to be better off starting a business out of college or even before. It's again, there's no set path that works for everybody. I mean, so I can't speak on that, but I can speak on like my current experience right now, and I'm currently in the process of getting close, but finalizing like what job I'll be working after graduation. And for me, I'm choosing to work in a smaller company where I can closer with the founder of the company and where I have a strong relationship with that founder and open communication so that the leader of this company like knows my goal is to go off and start my own thing, and I'd love to put in 3, 4, 5 years with him and ideally like he teaches me what he knows and I go off and start my own thing. So that's like where I'm at personally. But again, like it's different for everybody and there's no set piece of advice that'll work.
So, kind of going back on the snippet of kind of your five closest friends, would you say that it's better to have three people who you really share common interests with versus 10 people who are kind of your fake friends, if you will, meaning for the 4 years at your college?
Quality of without a doubt.
And what do you kind of think makes that quality over the large quantity? Because if you look at it from, let's say I'm in a frat and I know a girl who's in a sorority and she has, 15 friends, and then my friend over here is in a frat who has 20 friends. What do you think it makes finding those actual friends versus just having the number of large friends that you really aren't really going to see after college?
Yeah, I mean, I never get caught up in like how many friends you or someone else has because it doesn't matter. Like at the end of the day, what matters is how many quality friends that you have in your life. And back to your question of what like determines like a quality friend. In my opinion, I think like a quality true friend is someone who is there for you, of course, someone who consistently pushes you out of your comfort zone and challenges you to do hard things. And really like someone who you can have like open conversation with and the conversation that you have is productive and is like conversation that's like, all right, like how do we become better? Like how do
Yeah.
we get better at this or that or just bring ourselves up? And I think like with people, I mean, if I have like X amount of friends, like a lot of them are probably just like, friends I like to go out with or I have baseline conversations with. And I definitely would say never like look at someone and say, oh, they have so many friends because odds are most of their friends are just kind of party friends. But I mean, yeah, like just constantly like having a person or two or three if you're lucky that just like constantly like push you out of your comfort zone, and they're like, let's go to the beach and see the sunrise and wake up early, or like let's, do 75 hard. Like people who you have those like conversations with like are the people who are going to bring you up, and you should cherish and invest in those relationships. Information.
So, kind of with our lasting remarks, if you will, what are some kind of big takeaways, kind of being a senior, kind of almost graduating school, and just that, and just as an overall.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of bittersweet. Some of my younger friends, like the younger kids in the fraternity, have been calling me and my friends Unk, which is it's weird. Like, whoa, we're like 6 months old. Like, relax. But yeah, I mean, I've done a decent amount of like reflecting these past couple months on my college experience, and truly, the College of Charleston School of Business has done me very well. I mean, the entrepreneurship department's great. Dr. Wyman has been extremely supportive and is someone I look up to. Same with Troy Noss, who's another professor of entrepreneurship. You have Lancey Alfonso, Sarah Castle. I mean, I've had a great experience here, and I think, yeah, like being like on the verge of graduating college is almost like a pivotal experience in everyone's life, and I mean, I say with confidence that I'm excited to go into the real world. I think
It's a little bit, it's a little surreal.
yeah, it's surreal. It can be scary, but with the right mindset, like I'm confident that all of us in the Founders Club and that are prepared to go into the real world and will do great things. I think, yeah, I mean, it's kind of hard to wrap my finger around it, but yeah, I mean, I've met so many great people here at CFC, and I have so many great experiences, and I love the city of Charleston that welcomes all of us from transplants not here in graciously. Yeah, I look forward to the future, and will always be a resource for all of you younger students in the Founders Club. I could see like 20 years from now, I could see many of us having large successful companies and doing business with each other, and having this network of entrepreneurs, because it all started as just college kids meeting on Monday nights at 5:30, and I look forward to seeing and sharing success with all of us, and I know we'll all kill it.
All right, so that was, first of all, I want to say thank you to MJ for taking the time out of his busy day and kind of, I don't know what time he woke up, but, getting here before the library opens. But so, kind of with that, that was our second episode of Young Entrepreneurs. And so this is kind of a podcast of where we either bring students in, or just, who own their own companies, or just as, a whole, or just people who I know, and we kind of just chat about, school or just whatever. But I know that MJ kind of has to scoot it a little. So
yeah, I gotta go rock the bridge with my friend. Thank you, Spencer, for having me.
of course.
I appreciate it. And when I talk about students who I'm confident will do well, you're absolutely on that list. I hope you keep persevering with this podcast, and it'll be tough at first, but I look forward to seeing you do well in the future.
Yeah, me as well. All right, we're gonna kind of end it, but
Cool.
all right, thanks.